So I never had much high hopes for this episode. I knew it was going to kind of be like pre-finale filler, the way that normal episodes are before the finale. Usually this would fall between episode 5 and 6, or it would be episode 9, 10-ish in the original series format, where we had 14 episodes a year. The episode itself was interesting, to be honest. It wasn't a bad story at all. What the part that I really loved to start with was how they introduced the title sequence into this episode. It was quite similar to the way that they done Maestro with the Devil's Chord, where she started playing the notes of the theme tune on the piano before it actually went into the intro. It was quite interesting, actually, and it was very fitting for an episode such as this, where it determines stories in order to run the engine, which is quite interesting. There was no major standout moments from this episode at all. In fact, I didn't actually have much notes, which I know I normally say is a good thing, but in this case it is a good thing, because I don't have anything that I majorly hated and anything like that about the episode. It was good. I do really like the idea where they are in a barber shop location for this story, though. It really is kind of one of the perfect places to set a story such as this, because what happens in barbershops and hairdressers, stories are constantly being told. Hairdressers are discussing with their clients, and their clients are conversing back with them, and it's just such the perfect situation to be in to tell a story such as this one. You couldn't have really told this story in any other location other than a barbershop or a hairdresser's. The story itself was pretty solid. It was pretty good. The fact that we got some stories about the Doctor, and then there was like other stories that were told, but then when it came to the Doctor telling his story about Belinda, it was really heartwarming. It gave us more insight into why Belinda might want to actually get home so urgently, and it's because she needs to save people's lives, and that became so clear by this episode, and it really added a lot more depth to Belinda's character, and I liked that. I like the fact that in that flashback as well, that's where we get to see Mrs. Flood, and there was nothing special about Mrs. Flood's appearance here. It felt like she was just kind of dropped in because she had to be, because really there was no real reason for her to be at the hospital at that specific moment in time, even if she was going to be picking up her prescription or whatever. Yeah, I feel like Mrs. Flood's appearance here was just because she had to show up. It didn't add any value to the story. It didn't add any information about Mrs. Flood. I was expecting something at the end with Mrs. Flood, and nothing came up, which was nice, don't get me wrong. It was really nice not to see her at the end of the episode for a change, but there was no further indication into who Mrs. Flood is or any hints as to what she's actually up to. It was like an everyday appearance from her neighbour, which would make sense, I suppose, because back then, when the Doctor was telling this story from Belinda's point of view, she hadn't yet met the Doctor, and Mrs. Flood would still have been pretending to be that nosy next door neighbour. So it made complete sense for her to be acting in that way. But yeah, it was really nice to see that Belinda, just being a nurse, had a little bit more insight into what was happening with her patient than what the actual Doctor did, and not the Doctor, like the Doctor of the hospital. It just shows you how clever she actually is as a human being, and how much more insightful she is as well. So that adds to why she has been so, I don't want to keep saying clever, but why she has been so quick to kind of guess how to do things throughout her journey in the TARDIS, and why she's so fast at just digging her claws in and getting on with it, because that's what she's like in everyday life, and it makes complete sense. One of the scenes that was really nice to see was when ᴘᴅ broke the Doctor's trust.
You planned this, ᴘᴅ. I have to get these men home. Yeah, because I have no home, I'm warm. I'm expendable.
The families need them.
And I have no side of matter.
Doctor, you have stories. That's all I was thinking.
I love this shop. I loved you, ᴘᴅ.
I thought it was a home for me. I was safe.
And it's really a hard one here, because we've never met ᴘᴅ before. ᴘᴅ's never been mentioned before. So it's kind of like meeting a new character but being told that we should trust them, and they've been in the Doctor's life all this time, like for all these years, and we've just never met them before. And it's always hard when Doctor Who does this, because you're kind of just expected to like the character and accept the relationship between the Doctor and this new character they've introduced, and it doesn't always work. And I did feel like there was a little bit of that for me personally here. I didn't really, it was more like, hey, ᴘᴅ, we've been friends for so many years, and Yeah. I just didn't, it didn't land for me personally, and that's probably because if we had met ᴑᴅ prior, it may have landed a little bit harder. Like the first time we ever met Riversong, I fell in love with Riversong's character, but I didn't quite enjoy the connection she had to the Doctor because we had never met her before that point in Silence in the Library. So it was just a little bit like, so yeah, therefore you're not important. And as that connection goes on throughout the years of seeing Riversong, my love for Riversong grows, and the connection between the Doctor and Riversong grows, and I really start to enjoy their bond. But basically, it won't happen with ᴑᴅ because we probably won't ever see ᴑᴅ again. And I do know that there was a prequel part that you could read on the website, on BBC's website, if you wanted to read that before watching the episode. I didn't bother because it wouldn't take away or add to the story in any way, really. And there was a little bit of the story at the very beginning of this episode of ᴑᴅ telling you about the Doctor coming and saving them from fire and whatever else. But the connection there just didn't land for me. But what I really did like was when ᴑᴅ broke the Doctor's trust, and we get to see another angry moment from the Doctor. No tears, just anger. And it's really, really nice to see that frustration and that anger coming through. And I think this is just a little bit of a build-up towards the finale. I think the Doctor's going to end up very, very angry in this finale. And it's funny that the tears have slowly started to disappear as well. So I think what's actually been happening is the Doctor's been letting out these tears throughout this era. The Doctor's been letting out these tears, and we all know that if we cry, it releases our anger. So if the Doctor's been letting out these tears, it means that he's not been angry about it. He's been releasing his anger through the tears. But slowly, as the tears have stopped coming, the anger has started building. And I think that's kind of that I think it's been deliberate, to be honest. I think that's kind of the way that the character's meant to grow. And if that is the case, then it's been done beautifully. It is actually working, but it's just a little bit too late. I feel like maybe we should have had some more anger, like maybe 5 episodes ago. Then there was another surprise in this episode, which I didn't expect. I didn't expect any major surprises in this episode. Normally with those types of episodes, there's bits and bobs that are thrown in by the showrunner, kind of like add this in, make this continuity, kind of like make it work.
I couldn't take you with me.
I was a fugitive back then, and Nancy was wrong to offer that bet. And frankly, darling, I was busy in a different story.
But I didn't expect to see Jo Martin pop up. Like, I had heard suspicions that she was doing some filming for Doctor Who, but she was in Cardiff and, like, she was doing some filming, but we didn't know if it was for the audio adventures or if it was for Doctor Who or where she was going to make her appearance. But it was really, really nice to see that cameo. It was really nice to see Jo Martin back because I feel like she was a very underplayed Doctor. She was amazing in Jodie's era, and it's nice to see her back again. It's also nice to see the fact that the connection between her and the female god, I can't remember her name, was Abby maybe, I think so. But it's nice to see that it was Jo Martin's Doctor that was actually the Doctor that had left her behind and not Nshute's Doctor. Because if they had made it Nshute's Doctor, it would have just made things a little bit more complicated, because you're like, right, okay, you spent all that time with Ruby, you had a Christmas special, and then you were with Belinda, so where the hell did you fit the time in? But I suppose it's the Doctor, timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, all that kind of stuff. I really, really liked the fact that they used the hairstyles for road maps as well. That was quite genius, to be honest. I don't know if the story about the slaves in Nigeria is a true story, or if it's something that was just kind of made up so that it fit the plot, because obviously the hairstyle kind of led them to the maze rooms, and the Doctor had to use his hair to find his way through the maze room. So I'm not entirely sure if that was actually accurate information or if it was just maybe an idea that was expanded upon for this episode, but it was so neat. I really, really loved the fact that they had worked that into the script and worked it into the actual visuals as well. It was so cool. If any of you guys know if that part of the story is actually true, let me know down in the comments, because it was a heart-wrenching story about the slaves and how they used their hair to kind of transfer road maps and stuff to each other. But I'm not entirely sure if it was fully accurate or not. But yeah, this episode was just kind of like pre-finale filler. We know that the Interstellar Song Contest, which is next week's episode, is the one that's going to kind of kick off the finale. So we've had our 2 filler episodes, which were last week's episode and this week's episode. One thing I am confused about though is the ending to this episode is completely different to what was shown in the trailers. We got to see the big robot and Nancy spider thing blow up in the trailers, but in this episode at the end, the barber shop sucked the robot into wherever it took it to through the glowy thing in the door. The spider didn't actually get shown to be blown up in this episode, so I don't know if that was a concept for this episode and then they put it in the trailer, realised they spoiled the ending so they had to then rework how the ending finished, or if they just didn't like that concept and they decided to change it, or it was maybe just cut for time. That's usually the case. Also, this episode gives a little bit more insight to the Tardis. The Tardis seems to have learned since ᴑᴅᴇᴏ overtook it what gods are and how to detect them, because it was going off its head in this episode trying to warn the Doctor and Belinda, I suppose, that there was something not quite right with Olmo's barber shop, because every time the door closed the Tardis went off its head. So does this give us some insight into what's going to happen in the season finale? Is the Tardis going to pick up on these dangers before the Doctor actually gets a chance to get out there and find them, or is it going to falter again and just not warn them? Overall, for this episode, I'm going to rate it a 6.5 out of 10, and mostly the reasoning for that is because I felt like a lot of the characters were just kind of left standing around. It didn't feel like there was much for Belinda to do. There was literally like really no point for Belinda to even go back to the barber shop, apart from her instinct to go try and save the Doctor. There's no reason to have Belinda in that scene from then on out. Like, really, she's literally just a spare part in a moving machine. And the guests are obviously, they kind of had to be there for the plot to work, the missing people, all that kind of stuff. But I just feel like for the background characters in this episode, there could have been a lot more for them to do rather than just sit there and look at everybody acting. It just felt like, I don't know, it just felt like there was a lot of standing around and talking and not a lot of doing, which was kind of annoying. Also, for Anansi being such a powerful god, they didn't quite appear to be so powerful. They kind of just seemed like an ordinary dude that liked being a barber. It was kind of just like, I felt like we should have got a lot more from Anansi than we did, rather than him just being mysterious and this is my domain. Like, he says it's his domain, and then you're just like, well, if it's your domain, then show us what you can do in your domain. We're no longer in the barbershop, we're in your domain. Show us what you can do. Overall, the story itself was good. It was still a good episode. It just definitely wasn't the highest ranked of this season. I just felt like there could have been more in the episode. Like, there could have been a lot more of a battle to kind of get free. It was kind of just like, all of a sudden, Abby decided, oh yeah, right, let's do this, and I'm going to put this map in your hair, and then you're going to find the brain and the heart of the machine, and then boom, everybody's free. Like, it's not even explained. It doesn't even show you Anansi making that decision to leave the barbershop and become like a normal human, basically, because that's what he's going to be from here on out. Like, I feel like there could have been just a lot more tension and build up and a lot more action in the episode than there actually was. So yeah, that's kind of the reason for my low rating, or lowest rating of the season, should I say. So yeah, it's just kind of going to ramp up now until we hit the finale. The one I'm most excited to see is the Interstellar Song Contest, because apparently there's meant to be something in that that's going to change the world for Doctor Who forever, and I just can't imagine that a reveal's going to do that. It's going to need to be something absolutely massive, and I'm so confused now. I don't know who Mrs. Flood is. I don't know what's happening in the finale. The story overall for the full season has made complete sense. I'm not lost. Everything's so secretive this year. There's literally like no major spoilers. I know Tardis had just posted a dialogue leak, and I watched some of the video and then I stopped because I'm like, nope, I'm not doing it to myself. I'm not ruining it, because I ruined last year's season finale and I'm not doing it this year. And I also ruined By Generation for myself. Hate myself for that, but I'm not doing it this year. I'm 3 episodes away from finishing the series. I'm going to keep it that way, spoiler free. I don't want to know. I'll find out once I watch the episode, because then I can give you guys my most genuine reaction as well, rather than being like, oh well, I already knew that was going to happen. It just kind of wastes it. Let me know what your thoughts were down in the comment box, and yeah, subscribe, like, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.